It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, and 15-year-old Maya was excited to spend the day with her best friend, Chloe. They had planned this outing for weeks, looking forward to visiting the high-end boutiques in the city. Maya wanted to buy a special gift for her mom's upcoming birthday, a beautiful necklace she had seen online. The boutique, Luxe and Shine, was one of the most famous stores in town. Its glossy windows displayed sparkling jewelry, designer bags, and elegant dresses. Maya had saved her allowance for months just to afford something from this store. As she and Chloe stepped inside, Maya couldn't help but admire the bright chandeliers and shiny marble floors. However, the excitement in Maya's heart didn't last long. The moment she walked in, she noticed the boutique manager, Karen, looking at her in a strange way. Karen was a tall woman with a sharp expression, dressed in an expensive suit. Instead of greeting Maya and Chloe warmly, Karen stared at them as if they didn't belong. Maya brushed it off, determined to find the perfect gift for her mom. She walked over to the jewelry section and started looking at the necklaces. One in particular caught her eye, a delicate gold chain with a small diamond pendant. It was perfect. But as Maya reached out to pick it up, Karen appeared out of nowhere. "Be careful with that," she said sharply. "It's very expensive." Maya smiled politely. "I'm just looking. I'd like to buy it for my mom." Karen raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? Maybe you should check the price tag first." Maya felt her cheeks flush. She wasn't used to being treated like this. Chloe whispered, "Let's just leave." But Maya shook her head. She wasn't going to let Karen ruin her day. Maya continued to browse, but every move she made seemed to annoy Karen. The manager kept following her around the store, glaring at her and whispering to the other employees. It was obvious Karen didn't think Maya could afford anything in the boutique. Finally, Maya decided to ignore Karen and went to the counter to ask about the necklace. She stood in line behind other customers. But when it was her turn, Karen stepped in front of her. "Can I help you?" Karen asked, her tone cold. Maya kept her voice calm. "Yes, I'd like to buy the gold necklace over there." Karen folded her arms. "Do you even know how much it costs?" Maya took a deep breath. "Yes, I do. And I have the money for it." Instead of answering, Karen gave her a long, disapproving look. The tension in the room grew. Other customers were starting to notice, whispering to each other. Chloe grabbed Maya's arm. "Let's just go somewhere else," she said again, but Maya didn't move. She wasn't ready to back down. This was supposed to be a fun day, but things were quickly taking a different turn, one Maya never expected. Maya stood at the counter, holding her ground even though she could feel Karen's piercing stare. The boutique manager didn't hide her disapproval, and the silence in the store was growing heavy. Chloe tugged on Maya's arm, whispering, "Come on, Maya. Let's go somewhere else. This isn't worth it." But Maya shook her head. She had worked hard, saving her allowance for months to afford this gift for her mom. She wasn't about to let someone's bad attitude ruin her plans. "No, Chloe," she said softly. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I just want to buy the necklace." Karen cleared her throat, snapping Maya's attention back to her. "Listen, young lady," Karen said, her voice sharp. "This isn't some discount store. These items are very expensive." Maya's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "I understand that. I've been saving for a long time. I'd like to buy the gold necklace." Karen smirked, as if Maya's words were some kind of joke. She leaned over the counter and asked loudly enough for other customers to hear, "Do you even know how much it costs?" "It's $500. That's a lot of money." Maya nodded firmly. "Yes, I know. I have the money." Karen raised an eyebrow and crossed her arms. She glanced at Chloe, who was standing nervously by Maya's side, and then looked back at Maya. "Girls like you don't usually shop here," she said with a dismissive tone. Maya felt her face flush. Her stomach tightened, but she refused to let Karen's words bring her down. "I don't see why that matters," she said calmly. "I'm a paying customer. The other shoppers in the boutique started to whisper. Some of them looked uncomfortable, while others seemed to be enjoying the drama. One older woman leaned over to her friend and said in a hushed tone, "Poor girl, she shouldn't have to deal with this." Karen seemed to notice the attention too, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. "If you want to buy something, you need to show me the money first," she said, her voice dripping with doubt. Maya reached into her bag and pulled out her wallet. She opened it to show a crisp stack of bills she had been saving for this special day. "Here's the money," Maya said firmly. "Now can I buy the necklace, or should I speak to someone else?" For a moment, Karen didn't know what to say. Her face reddened slightly, but her attitude didn't change. Instead of apologizing, she leaned closer and said, "You must have gotten this money from someone else. There's no way you earned it yourself." Maya felt a lump rise in her throat, but she didn't let the tears forming in her eyes fall. She clenched her fists and said, "That's not true. I worked hard for this money. I just want to buy a gift for my mom." But Karen's words had already made the air in the boutique heavy with tension. Something told Maya this was far from over. Maya stood at the counter, her hands gripping her wallet tightly. The room was silent except for the faint whispers of other customers. Chloe, standing by her side, whispered, "Maya, please, let's go. This isn't worth it." But Maya wasn't ready to leave. She looked Karen in the eye and said calmly, "I've shown you the money. I just want to buy the necklace for my mom." Karen rolled her eyes and sighed dramatically, as if Maya's request was a great inconvenience. "Fine," she said, grabbing the necklace from the display. But instead of wrapping it up, she held it up and looked at Maya with a smirk. "You're really sure about this? This isn't some cheap trinket. Once you buy it, there's no refund." Maya nodded. "I'm sure." Karen hesitated, then set the necklace down on the counter. "All right, let's see the cash," she said, holding out her hand. Maya began counting out the bills from her wallet, her hands shaking slightly from the tension. She was about halfway through when Karen suddenly snatched the necklace off the counter. "You know what?" Karen said sharply. "I don't think I'm going to sell this to you after all." Maya froze, her heart sinking. "What? Why not?" Karen crossed her arms. "I don't believe you actually earned that money. People like you don't shop in places like this. You probably stole it." Gasps filled the room. A few customers looked horrified, while others simply stared, unsure of what to do. Chloe's face turned red with anger. "You can't say that," she blurted out. "Maya didn't steal anything." Maya took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. "That's not true," she said firmly. "I've been saving this money for months. I've done chores, babysat, and even helped my neighbors with errands. I worked hard for this." Karen didn't seem to care. She waved a hand dismissively. "That's a nice story, but I don't buy it. You don't belong in this store." Maya's hands clenched into fists. "That's not for you to decide," she said, her voice shaking with a mix of frustration and determination. "I'm a customer, and I have every right to be here." Karen leaned closer, her face just inches from Maya's. "Listen, little girl," she said in a low voice. "I run this store, and I decide who gets to shop here. And I say you don't." Before Maya could respond, Karen's hand shot out, and she shoved Maya back slightly. "Now get out," Karen said harshly. The room fell silent. Maya stood frozen, her cheeks stinging from the touch. Chloe gasped, and a customer near the door pulled out their phone, recording the scene. Maya swallowed hard, her eyes wide with shock. She stepped back and whispered, "You didn't have to do that." But Karen wasn't listening. She turned to the other employees and said loudly, "Call security." Maya's heart raced as Chloe grabbed her arm. "Maya, we need to call your dad," Chloe said urgently. "He needs to know what just happened." And that's when everything began to change. Maya's heart pounded in her chest as she stood there, trying to process what had just happened. Karen had actually pushed her. Maya never imagined she would be treated this way, especially in a store that looked so classy. She glanced at Chloe, who was staring in disbelief. What just happened? Chloe asked, her voice shaky. Maya shook her head. I don't know. She just pushed me. The shock of it all left Maya frozen. She couldn't believe she was standing in the middle of a boutique, about to be kicked out just because of who she was. It didn't feel real. Chloe quickly grabbed her phone and started dialing Maya's dad. Maya could hear the sound of her friend's voice shaking as she spoke. Mr. O'Neill, Maya's been treated badly at Lux and Shine. We need you to come here right now. The manager, she just pushed Maya and said terrible things. Maya's mind raced. Chloe, I don't know if we should make a big deal about it. It's just, I don't know. Maya, this isn't just nothing, Chloe said firmly. She can't do that. You deserve an apology, at least, and we need someone to stop her. Maya nodded, still trying to calm her nerves. She took a deep breath and stepped back, her eyes briefly meeting the other customers in the boutique. Some of them were still staring, but none of them had spoken up. Maya felt a rush of frustration. Why hadn't anyone said anything? Do you think she'll just get away with this? Chloe asked quietly, looking at Maya with concern. Maya didn't know what to say. She couldn't imagine letting Karen get away with treating her like this, but she also didn't know what would happen next. What if her dad was too busy or too far away to help? What if things got worse? Before Maya could answer, the door opened, and in walked a tall man, his broad shoulders and confident stride filling the room. His presence was impossible to ignore. Everyone turned to look as he entered, and Karen's face turned pale when she saw who it was. It was Shaquille O'Neill, Maya's dad. Shaquille, known to the world for his basketball career and towering height, stood in the doorway, his eyes scanning the boutique. He looked calm but serious, sensing the tension in the air. Karen immediately straightened up, her face a mixture of shock and guilt. Maya, Shaquille said in a deep voice, his eyes locking onto his daughter's face. Maya quickly ran to him, her heart racing. Dad, she pushed me, Maya said, pointing at Karen. She said I didn't belong here and... Shaquille's expression darkened as he looked at Karen. The entire room went silent again, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Karen seemed to shrink under Shaquille's gaze, her confident attitude completely gone. Shaquille took a step forward, his voice steady but firm. I think we need to have a serious conversation about what happened here, he said, his eyes never leaving Karen. The air in the boutique was thick with tension. No one dared to speak, waiting for Shaquille to take control of the situation. And Maya, she stood by his side, feeling both relieved and terrified. This was far from over. The entire boutique fell silent as Shaquille O'Neill stepped forward, towering over everyone in the room. His calm demeanor only made him seem even more imposing, and everyone instinctively knew that things were about to change. Maya's heart skipped a beat, a mixture of relief and nervousness filling her chest. She had never seen her dad like this, so steady, so sure of himself. Shaquille looked down at his daughter, his eyes softening when he saw the upset expression on her face. Are you okay, Maya? He asked gently, his deep voice echoing through the room. Maya nodded, but her voice caught in her throat. I'm fine, Dad. I can't believe this happened. Shaquille's face hardened as he turned to Karen. The boutique manager, who had been so confident before, now looked terrified. She stood behind the counter, her hands gripping it tightly, as if it were the only thing keeping her from running away. Shaquille didn't raise his voice, but there was no mistaking the seriousness in his tone. I need to understand why my daughter was treated this way, Shaquille said, his eyes narrowing. I'm sure there's a good explanation, right? Karen stammered, her words failing her for a moment. She swallowed hard. I was just doing my job. She was acting suspicious, and I thought she might be, well, not a paying customer. Maya could feel her blood boil. She wanted to shout, to demand an apology, but she stayed quiet, letting her dad handle it. Shaquille's expression didn't change, but his presence was enough to make Karen shift uncomfortably. "Suspicious," Shaquille repeated, his voice steady but powerful. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Karen opened and closed her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at the floor, unable to meet his gaze. The whole room seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for Karen to explain herself. A few customers, who had been standing by quietly, began to murmur among themselves. One of them, an older woman, stepped forward. "She was treated unfairly, Mr. O'Neill. I saw it all. Maya didn't do anything wrong. Karen was rude to her from the start." Shaquille glanced at the woman, then back at Karen. "It looks like you have a lot of explaining to do," he said, his voice remaining calm but firm. Karen's face turned red as she finally spoke. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend her. I just thought." "Stop," Shaquille interrupted, his tone still even but cutting. "You made a mistake, and you've hurt my daughter. Apologize to her, and then we'll talk about the next steps." Maya felt a lump form in her throat, but she held back her tears. She couldn't believe her dad was here, standing up for her so confidently. He wasn't yelling or being harsh, but the way he spoke showed how serious he was. Karen looked like she wanted to disappear, but instead, she muttered a half-hearted apology. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, her eyes avoiding Maya's. Maya didn't feel satisfied. It wasn't enough. She had been hurt, embarrassed, and unfairly treated. But she knew this wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. Shaquille was there, and he wouldn't let this go. "You should have treated my daughter with respect," Shaquille said, his eyes still on Karen. "And if you want to keep your job here, I suggest you learn to do better." Karen nodded quickly, her face pale. But Maya could tell she wasn't really sorry. Shaquille turned to the boutique owner, who had just arrived after hearing about the situation. "We're done here," Shaquille said, his voice calm but filled with authority. "Maya, let's go. We've got other things to do." Maya nodded, her heart swelling with pride as she followed her dad out of the store. Shaquille had made it clear. He would always have her back. As Maya and Shaquille walked out of the boutique, the door closed behind them with a soft chime. The air outside felt fresh, a sharp contrast to the tense atmosphere inside the store. Maya took a deep breath, her nerves slowly settling. She glanced up at her dad, who was still calm but had a firm expression on his face. "Are you okay?" Shaquille asked, his voice soft, the concern in his eyes showing more than his words. Maya nodded, though she still felt a swirl of emotions inside. "Yeah, I think so. It just felt so unfair." Shaquille gave her a reassuring smile. "I know, but you did the right thing by standing up for yourself." Maya sighed, feeling the weight of the situation lifting. She had been nervous when everything first happened, but with her dad there, she felt stronger. Shaquille's calm approach had made all the difference. As they reached the car, Shaquille pulled out his phone and called the boutique's owner, a man named Mr. Roberts. After a brief conversation, he hung up and turned to Maya. "The owner is coming to meet us. He wants to speak with us in person. He knows this situation shouldn't have happened." Maya was quiet for a moment, her mind racing. "Do you think she'll get fired?" Shaquille sighed, looking out the window. "It's hard to say, but she certainly crossed a line. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, no matter who they are or what they look like." Maya smiled slightly, feeling comforted by her dad's words. It was still hard to believe how quickly things had escalated, but she was starting to feel a sense of justice. About an hour later, Shaquille and Maya arrived at a quiet cafe where Mr. Roberts had asked to meet. The atmosphere was calm and peaceful, a sharp contrast to the chaos earlier. As they sat down, Mr. Roberts arrived, looking both nervous and apologetic. He quickly shook hands with Shaquille and sat down, glancing at Maya before speaking. "I want to start by saying how deeply sorry I am for what happened," Mr. Roberts said sincerely. "No customer should ever be treated that way, especially not by someone who works for us. Karen has been with us for years. But this incident, it's unacceptable. Maya listened closely, unsure of what to feel. She hadn't expected the owner to take responsibility so quickly. It made her feel like maybe, just maybe, people could change. Karen has already been suspended. Mr. Roberts continued. I've spoken with our staff and explained that we have zero tolerance for behavior like this. I've also offered Maya a full apology. We want to make things right. Shaquille nodded, his expression serious. That's a good start, but actions speak louder than words. I hope you make sure your employees understand the importance of respect. Mr. Roberts agreed. Of course, Mr. O'Neill. We're taking steps to train our team more effectively. I want this kind of thing to never happen again. Maya looked at her dad, who gave her a small smile. It's good that they're taking responsibility, he said. Maya wasn't sure if Karen's actions could be fully forgiven just yet, but she was glad the store was making changes. It was a small victory, but it was enough for now. As they left the cafe, Shaquille placed his hand on Maya's shoulder. I'm proud of you, Maya. You stood up for what's right, and that's the most important thing. Maya smiled, feeling stronger than ever. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but she was ready for whatever came next. You said. The days that followed were a blur for Maya. Her life had changed so quickly. The incident at Lux and Shine had been the talk of the town, and before long, it spread across social media. A customer who had been in the boutique when Maya was treated unfairly had posted a video of the whole encounter online. In the video, you could clearly see Karen's harsh treatment of Maya, and the way Shaquille O'Neill had calmly stepped in to handle the situation. The video quickly went viral. People shared it, commented on it, and soon it was everywhere. Maya's phone buzzed constantly with notifications. She couldn't believe how fast everything was happening. At first, Maya didn't know what to think. On one hand, it felt good to see so many people standing up for her. On the other hand, it was a bit overwhelming. She had never imagined her experience would become a viral story, let alone be shared by celebrities, news outlets, and even influencers who had millions of followers. Maya sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone as Shaquille walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. How are you doing? He asked, sitting down beside her. I don't know, Maya replied honestly. It's crazy. I never thought something like this would happen. Shaquille nodded. It's a lot to take in. But you've handled it well. The most important thing is that you used your voice. Maya smiled weakly. Yeah, I guess. But I didn't expect people to care this much. Shaquille chuckled softly. People care because it's important. What happened to you isn't just about one person. It's about a bigger issue. It's about fairness, respect, and how we treat each other. Maya nodded, feeling a sense of pride. Her dad always had a way of putting things into perspective. Later that day, Maya's phone rang. It was a call from a well-known news outlet. They wanted to do an interview with her about what happened at Lux and Shine. The thought of talking on TV made her nervous, but she knew this was her chance to share her side of the story and raise awareness about the issue of racial profiling. That evening, Maya sat down with a reporter from the local news station. The camera lights were bright, and Maya felt her heart race as the interview began. The reporter started with a simple question. Maya, how did you feel when you were treated the way you were at the boutique? Maya took a deep breath, her voice steady but clear. I was shocked. I didn't expect that kind of treatment. I was just there to buy a gift for my mom, but instead, I was treated like I didn't belong. It didn't feel fair. The reporter nodded. And now that this story has gone viral, what message do you want to send to others who might face something similar? Maya thought for a moment, then smiled. I want people to know that they shouldn't be afraid to stand up for themselves. It's important to speak up when something is wrong, no matter who you are or where you're from. We all deserve to be treated with respect. As the interview ended, Maya felt a sense of empowerment. She was proud to be using her voice for change. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about making sure others wouldn't have to go through what she had experienced. By the end of the week, Maya had received messages from all over, thanking her for her courage and telling her how her story had inspired them. Maya felt stronger than ever, ready to continue fighting for fairness and respect in every part of her life. The days after Maya's interview were filled with messages of support, but there was also a lot of attention on what would happen to Karen, the boutique manager. The viral video had brought the incident to the forefront, and people weren't going to let it fade away easily. The video, showing Karen's harsh treatment of Maya, had sparked a national conversation about fairness and respect, especially when it came to customers who were treated unfairly because of their race. The owner of Lux and Shine, Mr. Roberts, had promised to take action after the incident. He had suspended Karen immediately, but the public wasn't satisfied with just that. People wanted to know whether Karen would face real consequences for her actions. It was clear that the story had touched a nerve, and many people felt that what had happened to Maya was wrong on every level. Shaquille had been vocal about how serious the situation was, not just for Maya, but for anyone who had ever been treated unfairly. He had used his platform to encourage stores and businesses to train their employees about kindness, respect, and racial equality. His message had been simple: businesses needed to do better, and the world needed to change. Meanwhile, Karen was under intense pressure. The public outcry had been so loud that it seemed impossible for her to avoid the consequences of her actions. The boutique's social media accounts were flooded with comments from people who felt that Karen needed to be held accountable. They weren't just upset with her treatment of Maya, but with the idea that people like Karen could act with such prejudice in a store that prided itself on being exclusive. Eventually, Mr. Roberts made an official statement. "We have taken immediate steps to address the behavior of our former employee Karen. After an internal review and feedback from our customers, we have decided to terminate her position at Lux and Shine. We understand that our actions may have caused hurt, and we are committed to making things right. We are also implementing new training programs to ensure that this does not happen again." The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Many people applauded the boutique for taking action, but some felt it should have been done sooner. Others believed that it was just the beginning of a much larger issue that needed to be addressed in the retail world. For Maya, the news about Karen's firing was bittersweet. While she knew that Karen needed to be held accountable, she didn't feel happy about it. It wasn't about seeing someone lose their job. It was about making sure people learned from their mistakes. Maya didn't want this to be just about punishing Karen. She wanted to make sure that what happened to her wouldn't happen to anyone else. As the news spread, Maya's story began to inspire even more people. People shared their own experiences of being treated unfairly and talked about how important it was to speak up. Maya had started something much bigger than herself. She had sparked a movement. Shaquille was proud of his daughter, not just for how she had handled the situation, but for how she had used it to bring about change. Together, they knew they had done something important, and the fight for respect and equality was far from over. But Maya now felt empowered, knowing that her voice mattered. As the weeks passed, Maya's life slowly started to return to normal. But something had changed inside her. The experience at Lux and Shine had opened her eyes to the reality of how people were treated based on their race, their appearance, and their background. What had started as a painful and unfair moment had turned into a lesson for Maya, one that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. Maya didn't just want to be a quiet bystander to injustice anymore. She had learned how important it was to stand up for what was right, even when it felt hard. The support she had received from her dad, from strangers, and from the countless messages of encouragement had helped her realize how powerful one voice could be. Maya's story wasn't just her own. It was the story of so many others who had faced discrimination, judgment, or prejudice. One evening, as Shaquille sat with Maya at their kitchen table, he asked, "Have you thought about what you want to do next, Maya? This has changed a lot of things, not just for you, but for others too." Maya nodded thoughtfully. staring at her phone screen where more messages of support were waiting. "I want to make sure that this doesn't just go away. I want to do something about it." Shaquille smiled. "I think that's a great idea. You've already inspired so many people. You can keep that momentum going and help others who are going through similar things." Maya was determined. She decided to start a foundation with her father, one that would work to raise awareness about fairness, respect, and equality. It would focus on helping young people who faced racial profiling or discrimination, giving them the tools to stand up for themselves and make their voices heard. The foundation would offer scholarships, provide mentorship, and host workshops to teach students how to be leaders in their communities. Maya's story continued to reach more and more people, and soon the foundation gained the support of several local businesses, including some of the very people who had been inspired by her courage. They wanted to help create a world where no one would have to experience the kind of treatment that Maya had faced at Lux and Shine. One day, Maya stood in front of a group of young students at a local school, ready to share her story. She could feel her heart racing as she looked out at their eager faces. "I know some of you have been treated unfairly in your lives," she began, her voice strong and steady. "I want you to know that you don't have to accept that. You deserve respect, and no matter who you are or where you come from, your voice matters." As Maya spoke, she could see the students nodding along, some of them even smiling. She knew that her words were making a difference, just as her dad had always taught her. The foundation grew, and Maya became an advocate for fairness, equality, and kindness. She traveled to schools, spoke at community events, and worked with leaders to make lasting changes in local laws and policies. She had started with a simple desire to buy a necklace for her mom, but she had ended up starting a movement that would impact generations to come. Looking back, Maya knew one thing for certain. The lesson she had learned wasn't just about standing up for herself. It was about standing up for others. Her voice had started a ripple effect, and she was determined to keep it going, making sure that her legacy would be one of change, hope, and progress.